Okay, you will fail financially if you don't do this. All right, let's get into this one. But before I get started, go ahead and hit that like button if you appreciate this content. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified whenever I upload a video. All right, one thing that will definitely cause you to fail financially is if you don't prepare for the future. If you don't have anything set in place to actually get where you want to go, okay? This is very, very important. Now, in the world of personal development and that sort of thing, they call this setting goals. Setting goals is just highly important. If you don't have a map to where you want to go and actually get on the road and get going, you're not going to get to your destination. So setting goals is highly important. I think about this in a big way because today is my birthday. And for my birthday, on this particular day, 15 years ago, I set a goal for myself. And that goal was to be completely debt-free 15 years from my 40th birthday. Here I am, and this is that day. And I'll confess to you that I did not make the goal. I am still not completely debt-free. Now I'm close. I'm really close, but I did not quite make it there. And there's something that I want to talk about a little bit later in this video that I think is really important as you're setting goals and working through your goals, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But let's get into goals and why it is so important to set a goal, okay? I was just reading a article about a survey on my phone, and in this survey they talked about goal setting, okay? And in that survey, of the folks that were surveyed, 83% of them had no goals. Zero goals. No roadmap for where they want to go in life. And so they're aimless. 83%. That's a somewhat alarming statistic. Now 14% had plans. In other words, they wanted to do something. Like we're talking about finances. So about 14% had a financial goal or a plan, but did not have this very important ingredient. 3% of people actually have their goals written down. And that's what I'm talking about right now. Writing your goals down. Only 3% write them down. And guess what? Of those 3%, if you actually write your goals down, 42%, you are 42% more likely to reach your goal if it's written down. Excuse me, this is a big deal, okay? You gotta write down your goals, okay? And I'll confess something here. I am a perfectionist about many different things. I really want to get into the details of things and do it perfectly. But here's the truth that I found for myself, at least. Perfection can rob you of any progress at all whatsoever. I look over many, many things in my life where I try to do it perfectly. You know, I'm walking here with you. That's the highlight kind of my birthday, of something that I'm able to do, is to come here and talk to you. And it's something that I wanted to do for a very, very long time. And I remember way back, this was years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, I actually purchased equipment to do what I'm doing right now. I purchased a very nice Sony camera. I purchased a gimbal so that I could actually balance that camera and other things to actually be able to do what I'm doing right now. And I went through actually training myself with YouTube videos to use that camera because it was really, really complicated. And I was always going to do it next and next day or the next month and so on. And I just never did it because I was searching for perfection. To make a long story short, I finally just got up, about a year ago. It was actually in April, a little bit over a year ago. And I just picked up my cell phone and I said, I'm just going to start today. I went out on a walk and I just shared some things on that walk, and that started my journey. I was actually doing that on Facebook rather than here on YouTube. And then finally, the first of the year this year, I purchased a little bit better camera that I could just turn on and have in my hand, and that's the camera that I have right now. And I just got it going. And the whole point of that little story is perfection can rob you of having any kind of progress. So you want to write down your goals, okay? So write them down. Doesn't have to be elaborate, just simple. Maybe have a little notebook or a little sheet of paper and just write down that goal. But to go back to my story, 15 years ago, my 40-year-old self made the plan of being completely debt-free no later than my birthday at age 55. And I'll digress just a little bit here to talk about, I was looking at my birthday at age 55 to be at that goal. But I listen to the Money Guy quite a bit, and he says to make 3D goals, where you have the 3Ds there of your goal, the 3Ds. And the first D is your dream plan, that word that starts with D, the dream, to where you can't believe things just happen so far beyond the goal that you made, and it's awesome. That's the dream goal. Then you want to make the down-to-earth goal, the one that if you implement your plan, let's say that you've written it down, it just kind of goes to plan. And then you want to have your do-do plan. That's if everything goes wrong. You didn't know what was coming, but life hit you. And you want to make a goal where that do-do, if do-do comes into your life, you still are able to reach the goal. That's your do-do plan. And that's exactly what I did 15 years ago. I made a do-do plan. I was like, if worse comes to worse, at least my 40-year-old self, when I reached age 55, that I would be debt-free. And I'm so thankful to my 40-year-old self that my 40-year-old self made that do-do plan. And I'll give you a little tip for that 3D plan. I always make my do-do plan my down-to-earth plan, so that if everything goes wrong, I'm still going to make that down-to-earth plan. So fast forward from when I was 40 to this year, 15 years later, and I'm here with you on my birthday, and I told you I didn't make my debt-free plan. Some things happened. I got a punch in life. In 2019, we had a flood in this area, and my home flooded. It rained and rained and rained and rained, and it was a major thing to get things together from that flood. And so that set back my plan all the way to the do-do plan. Now, but before that, I was hoping to do it a little bit earlier, maybe 10 years later rather than 15 years later. But that was a major event, and it was somewhat of a setback. So my do-do plan, or rather my down-to-earth plan, which would have been 10 years rather than 15 years, did not quite come to fruition. But thank God that I had the guidance, and I do thank God that I had the guidance to make that do-do plan. And so I was able to make it through that flood, and making, I always say, writing $5,000 plus checks to the contractors to get that done. And still, I was on track to have this done within 15 years. So it's very important to have that do-do plan. I'm thankful for that plan that was the lowest on the rung of my plans. It certainly wasn't the dream plan, and it wasn't even really my down-to-earth plan, that 10-year. It all went all the way to the 15th year, but still a glorious plan that I'm highly thankful for. So now let's fast forward to today. I didn't reach my goal. I did not reach my goal of being completely debt-free here on my birthday today. But here is that little tip that I'll give you. When you set your goals, sometimes things are going to come your way to where you don't quite get all the way to the goal that you put down on paper. But guess what? You've come such a far way. When you look back, you've come so far just by setting that goal. And what you do is you go back to the drawing board. If you wrote down that goal, like what I recommend is very, very simple. Just write them down on a sheet of paper. Just write down your goals and leave a little space underneath so that you are able to make some adjustments with your goals, okay? You can make some slight adjustments, a few little tweaks or changes. Because as I look at this specific goal of being completely debt-free on my birthday today, and I look back on where I've been and how far I've come to where I'm a stone's throw from reaching the goal, that is glorious. I just needed to take a look at the goal and do a little bit of tweaking of the goal. And so I wrote it down. And I hope that the wind does not take this too much, but here's the goal. Now, it's to be debt-free. I don't know if you actually can see that, the wind is taking it a little bit there, but debt-free by July 4th, 2025. And I don't know if you can actually see it. I'll take face tracking off. But I have on my Washington, D.C. t-shirt. And one of the things that I really look forward to, one of the goals once I was debt-free, you know, people make different goals and things that they want and that sort of thing. But for me, it was real simple. One of the things that I really look forward to is just visiting my family. My family, my mom and my brother and my sister live in Virginia, and very, very soon I'll be going to visit them. Virginia is very, very close to Washington, D.C. And I think about the new goal that I've written down here. That's just a slight adjustment from the goal of my birthday to today. Very, very soon, it will be July 4th. And our country gained its freedom from Great Britain now about 249 years ago, Independence Day, July 4th. And July 4th will be when I celebrate my independence from debt. And so it's just an adjustment. It's not a failure. So when you make your goals, one, you want to make goals so that you don't fail in your finances. Just simple things. It doesn't have to be, like I said, complicated. Write it down on a piece of paper just like I did, or in a little notebook. Don't let perfection keep you from progress. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just write it down real quick. Like I did, being debt-free. Way back then, at age 40, I wrote it down. No later than age 55, 15 years later. And look where I am. I may not have made it on my birthday, but I will make it there soon. And so this is about you, though. What are your goals? Write it down so that you have a map. And then also remember that if you don't make the goal right on spot, look back and see how far you've come and then make the adjustment. Because at that moment, even if you don't quite make the goal, the glass is not half empty, it's half full. Have that optimism. Know that you're going to be there soon. Make the adjustment and have a sense of joy that you had the foresight and the good critical thinking to put yourself in that 3% that has the goal written down. You won't fail. You will actually have success with your finances by writing your goals down. Simple, just on a sheet of paper, or maybe in a little document in your computer, if you're more tech savvy and want to do it that way, or on your phone with the notes. I hope that this one is helpful. Make sure that you're part of the 3% that's writing down your goals, and you will find that you have success financially And even if you come to the date, because with goals, they tell you to actually put a timeline on it. So if you come to the end of that timeline and you haven't quite made it there in your goals, look back and see how far you've come, and then just make the adjustment and be in a state of gratitude that you've come that far and that you now have the knowledge and the critical thinking skills and so forth to make your goal by adjusting it to the next step. Just like I did with my birthday now, that I did not quite reach that goal, to going to the 4th of July, which I think is even a more appropriate time to celebrate. As a country and I celebrate freedom from Great Britain with the great 4th of July celebrations out there, I will also be celebrating my freedom from debt. And I want the very, very same thing for you. Again, if you find this content helpful, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified anytime I upload a video. And I'd like to say thanks to every one of my friends, family, and my co-workers that have wished me a happy birthday today. And I wish you the most success. Take care, and God bless.